Hi, I'm just going to run through some examples here of writing the sinusoid for some given information. So I have 5 examples that I'm going to work through here for you. If we're given an amplitude, we know immediately that the A is either plus or minus 10. Given a period, we know that's equal to 2 pi times c. So if I divide both sides by 2 pi, my c is pi over 3 over pi. And through the point negative 3, 8, we're not told what kind of point that is, whether it's a midline point or a maximum or a minimum or whatever. So we can choose that point to kind of appear anywhere on our sinusoid. So if I'm going to write a sine function, I'm going to choose this to be a midline point because immediately that gives me my value for h and k. For a cosine function, I'm going to either choose that to be a maximum or a minimum. Let's say I pick that to be a maximum. So immediately that gives me my h, and then my k has to be halfway in between. So my amplitude is, or halfway in between the maximum and minimum. So if my amplitude is 10, so I have like my midline, my max, and my min, and this is 10. So my k is just going to be 8 minus 10, or negative 2. And then all I need to do then is to write my equation. Notice here that whether these are maxes and mins don't depend on my values for c and my values for a. So I'm just going to pick them both to be positive. If we're not told what kind of point this needs to be, the values for a and c do not matter. So I am just going to pick them to be positive because it's just a little bit simpler. Notice that I'm writing pi over 3 instead of 3 over pi because this is 1 over c, so it's the reciprocal. Okay. If I am told that this is a midpoint, these two things do not change, right? So I'm not going to bother showing the algebra again because they're the same values as before. If this is a midpoint, for sine, I know it's a midpoint is on the midline, so I know immediately that those are my values for h and k. We're not told what's happening before or after it, so it doesn't matter. I can pick a and c to be positive or negative. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to pick them to be positive for simplicity. So my sine function is easy to write. Again, same thing as what we had before. The cosine function is going to be a little bit trickier. So my midline point from the parent function of cosine is pi over 2, 0, and that's going to have to go to negative 3, 8. So I know immediately that k is 8. But then I have to say that pick a value for c to either be positive or negative. Let's just pick the positive times my x-coordinate plus h has to give me negative 3. So when I do that, I get 3 over 2 plus h equals negative 3. So h is negative 4.5 or 9/2 if you prefer. And then cosine, or the a can be, again, either positive or negative because we're not told what's happening before or after this midline point, so it doesn't matter. So 10 cosine of 3 pi over 2 x plus 4.5, or 9 over 2 plus 8. Okay. If this is, again, same situation, but this time we're specifying that this point is a minimum. This time cosine becomes easier. So let's do that one first. So cosine, I have an extreme point at 0, 1. That's a maximum. And we're going to take that to the minimum, negative 3, 8. So because we're going from max to min, I need my negative value for a. 0 is going to negative 3, so my h is negative 3. And then I have a times 1 plus k should give me negative 3. So if I add 10 to both sides, that I get k is 7. So that's going to, and again, I'm just going to pick a positive value for c. So I have negative 10 cosine pi over 3 x plus 3 plus 7. Now if I'm doing for sine, I can pick an extreme point for sine. I'm going to pick the minimum for sine, which is at 3 pi over 2 comma negative 1. And that's going to this minimum, negative 3, 8. So I can say that 3 over pi, that's my c, times my x, 3 over 2, plus 8 should give me negative 3. So when I do that, I have 9 over 2 plus h. So that's 9 over 2 is 4.5. I subtract that from both sides. I get h is negative 7.5, or 15 halves. And I can do the same thing for k. So I have a, and I know because I'm going min to min, my a should be positive. So I have 10 times y plus k should give me 8. So here, 10 times negative 1 is negative 10. Add that to both sides, so there k should be 18. So I have y equals 10 sine of pi over 3 x plus 7.5, or 15 halves, plus 18. Maximum is going to be really the same thing. The only thing that I would need to change here is that the coefficient for cosine should be positive, but everything else would remain the same. I encourage you to work through that on your own to see that. And for the sine, everything else is going to stay the same except for the a is going to have to be negative, because here we'd be going from min to max, but I'm not going to redo the work because everything else had stayed the same. That's nice. And the last example I'm going to have is if I'm going from minimum to max, or if I just know I have to go through a max and a min. So I'm going to just kind of sketch a picture here. So I have like 310 up here, and then 11, negative 4 down here. So this is my picture. My midline should be halfway between these, right? So my k is going to be like the y max plus the y min divided by 2. So in that case, it's 10 plus negative 4 is 6, divided by 2 is 3. which comes through like this. The amplitude is going to be the distance from your min or max to that midline, or you can think about it as the half the difference between these. So in that case, it's 7, right? 10 minus a negative 4 is 14, divided by 2 is 7, which should make sense. If I go up 7 units from 3, I should be at 10. If I go down 7 units from 3, I should be at negative 4. To do the period, if I draw one full period of this thing, it would go to here. So this to this is a half of a period. So half of my period should be that difference between these. Okay. And I know a period is 2 pi times the absolute value of c. So c is going to be 8 divided by, or the absolute value of c is going to be 8 divided by pi. And now I'm just left with finding my h. So the cosine is going to be the easy one to do in this case because I have a maximum min. So I'm going to take the max from cosine and send it to the max for this one. It's 310. Because we're going max to max, I know that my a value has to be positive, and my h is 3. And my c, again, we always choose to be positive when we have a choice like this. If I wanted to do this with sine, it's a little bit trickier. So I'm going to need an extreme point from sine. So I'm going to take the maximum. So that's going to go to this maximum. So that tells us again that the a is positive. But to find that h, I have to do c times x from the parent plus h needs to give me the x from the transformed. So that's 4 plus h equals 3. If I subtract 4 from both sides, I have negative 1. So I have y equals 7 sine pi over 8, again using that positive c, x plus 1 plus 3. And that's where I'm going to stop. Okay, good luck with the assignment. See you later.